Ladies and gentlemen, we are away. Ladies and gentlemen, I must begin this broadcast with this simple statement. These are workers' hands. We're going to discuss, amongst many other things now and into the future, the CFMEU is a militant union, large building company, very powerful, very large, something like the Teamsters, hard men, drug dealing, bikies. Yeah, it's all fucking true. This is no mystery to people. We all know what they get up to. It's been like it since time immemorial, but they just broke them up with a legislative pen. They're going to make all these allegations. They're going to tell you this is in preparation for the pandemic, for the new one, or whatever crisis they come up with, war with China. Because the militant grassroots actually attacked the CFMEU headquarters when the CFMEU did nothing but cooperate with the government over the pandemic. I also am going to show you a video where a friend of mine, Richard Foley, who's actually a member of the CFMEU and a long-time organizer, and I really like him. I've known him since 2016, 17. He came on board and assisted me greatly. He's been a solid rock from day one. From day one, I have no affiliations with Human Movement. Never been. I think I went into the nurses' union at one stage and then got out because it was so damned expensive. But what I like Richard a lot personally, and I've seen the work he's been doing as a small business owner and a decent, reasonable person within the union movement. And Richard Foley, you're about to see, is the real union movement. Right? Like, I mean, it's just laughable. The allegations of they've always been doing this. When are we going to get the bankers, the Wall Street drug money launderers? We can't have those militant, bearded, testosterone-filled males running around when they try to close the country down. This is part of the problem. And also the CFMEU decided to fly the Palestinian flag, which I don't think helped. So we're going to watch Richard in action here, and then we're going to read from my article. Sorry, I was going to do this initially, but then things cropped up and then I had a coffee and then I'm back. By the way, health is improving leaps and bounds, this time by fasting, by eating once a day between 12 and 3. Wow. You give your gut time to recover, you start feeling more happy. Anyway, I'm watching too much Dr. Berg lately. But for God's sake, men over 50, I want to do whole videos on that as well, because I used to be a healthcare worker. I used to be a comprehensive registered nurse. Anyway, let's get into Richo. I will, of course, be interjecting with my commentary and having a bit of a giggle. Remember, these are workers' hands. Richard knows a lot of people. Richard, I mean, the conversations I had with him recently, we were just slapping our foreheads. How are they going to get away with this? Look, whatever you think of the union movement, I'm not the fondest. I know their origins. A lot of them Masonic lodges affiliated. There's all sorts, but that's everywhere. The point is this: they're in everything. Everything. So why are they going after the CFMEU now? Number one, flying too many Palestinian flags. Two, they're not doing what they're told. Three, they're getting ready to pacify the population of Australia. And we'll talk about that after we've watched the video. Let's get into it.
Now, the government says they're cleaning up the rot. Tradies say their rights are under attack. Today, rallies erupted across the nation's capitals as thousands of union workers protested against the government's takeover of the scandal-ridden CFMEU, vowing the union is here to stay.
I will interject. Shame the CFMEU aren't exclaiming, "Oh, wars are bankers' wars. Kissinger and Klaus Schwab are the ultimate union for scum-sucking Armani suit-wearing bastards from Europe." How about something like that? All wars are bankers' wars. All wars are bankers' wars. Destroy the banking and financial institutions. Destroy the foundation system. God bless Norman Dodd. Destroy the funding of fake grassroots movements. What about funding like that, CFMEU people? You see, you got to crush any organised resistance. Any organised resistance. And when you start losing control of your union or your bikie drug dealing gang or your police gang, suddenly the police are on corruption charges because they've upset their boss, or now they're not doing what they're told. You know who the bikies aren't popular with the police, who won't work with the police? They're all in fucking jail. The point is this: weed the corruption out wherever it is. And there is freaking corruption within the CFMEU. Of course there fucking is. It's hardly news. The Australian Federal Police Commissioner, and it's in a 60 minutes. Can someone please find it? 60 Minutes Australia program. Am I working? Because nothing. I'm on a good rant now, and I hate it when you look down and realise you're not recording. I am recording. It's not the first time I've done that. The Australian Federal Police, head of border control as well. So it's like the FBI, the Coast Guard, and Department of Homeland Security all in one, sits there on 60 Minutes Australia and says, we can't stop the drugs because too many of our staff are corrupt. Well, fancy that. I don't see legislating away the friggin' Australian Federal Police. I don't see them legislating away the corrupt Australian stock market and all their drug money laundering. The drug money laundering is done by banks. I know for a fact they had to weed out Westpac Bank, a giant bank, because of its corruption, where half of its executives had spent time in northern Israel on fucking kibbutzes, post-university study. Fancy fucking that. When are you going to expose all the retired American generals that are engaged in the drug trade? Are you going to blame Mexico for the fucking drug trade? Oh, yeah, El Chapo runs the fucking drug trade, my ass. All those Israeli-Russian gangsters working for the City of London. Enough of this shit. These are workers' hands. These bastards have never even held a hammer. And if only the CFMEU had been harder on LGBTQ rights and drag queen story time, perhaps then the CFMEU could have flown less Palestinian flags, which methinks may have something to do with the current legislative writing away of their rights.
Loud, proud, defiant.
Imagine all wars are bankers' wars. Hey, dickhead, all wars are bankers' wars. Yeah, and you look real good. What beautiful, ladies and gentlemen, imagery. You don't think the enemy loves that, boys? Stop wearing black shirts and putting skull and crossbone scary henna tattoos all over yourself. All right? Start wearing rainbow-coloured flags. Start chanting the right stuff. Start playing the advertising and marketing game. You see, this is how they control. The Hezbollah and the CFMEU are identical. It's a crib to stick you, to control you, take sincere grassroots energy, all right? And then make sure it stays only on approved subjects. Only on approved subjects. And clearly the CFMEU is getting too out of control for our masters at the top. And you are flying the wrong flags, ladies and gentlemen. Wait till you see it. Oh, beautiful advertising and marketing. The average Australian will definitely be on your side more.
Tens of thousands of
Look, it's like crisis act of time. Man, somebody get hold of just so, you know, come on. I know a group of people that are extremely powerful. They never march. They're too busy lobbying politically and, shall we say, using the dark arts to corrupt and gain control. Maybe we need to start learning these things.
Construction workers across the country downing tools and taking to the streets in unauthorised strikes in support of the
unauthorised strikes. I love it. What's an authorised strike?
CFMEU.
We are here today because of the rotten, stinking Labor Party.
Labor Party is equivalent to the Democrats. Fancy that, boys. You just work it out. Like I said, wear a dress, put some makeup on, maybe you'll get somewhere.
Fighting back against the federal government's forced takeover of the construction arm of the embattled union.
It's obvious that this has put a few noses out of joint.
Some 300 staffers stood down.
The vast majority of these people are honest, hard-working people.
After the union became engulfed in allegations of endemic crime and corruption, bribery, bikie infiltration and intimidation.
That's great, I guess, with these serious allegations, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, drug dealing, bikies, tattoos, beards, frightening. I presume the police started a task force and began infiltration and gathering evidence. No. They're all off on this weekend. They're off that weekend. I had language. My goodness, look at that language.
To make sure.
Oh, wet rags. I almost pine for the days of John Howard. If you know Australian politics, that's a bad thing to say. But Anthony Albanese, you are a wet fucking rag. Look at them. Like little puppets with big fists up their assholes. They're vile.
That their union is free of corruption.
Not like the government or the banking and financial arms of the Fed and the Reserve Banks. Start wars, kill a couple of million, not a problem. Let's get these unions. They've got beards. They've got beards and tattoos. Frightening. Don't worry about the billionaire class paying off the government to avoid tax, pay no tax, pay little tax, Panama Papers, Patagonia Papers, bribing fucking government officials, and then getting massive taxpayer-funded handouts. Free markets for the working class, ladies and gentlemen. Socialism for the rich. These are workers' hands. My God, get me my flag.
The dirty, rotten bastard.
Get 'em, boys. Get 'em,
Workers
boys.
chanting the name of disgraced former CFMEU heavyweight John Setka.
Now that disturbs me. Stop the cult of personality, please, please. It's Lennon.
As the PM denied Setka's claim that the government had promised...
Johnny stepped down real quick. Wonder what they had on him. But what's he got on them? He's wearing a black T-shirt, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't have a beard, but he's wearing a black T-shirt. And he's got tattoos. He'll have to go. Bad man. Bad man. Sorry, Johnny, you're a rank amateur compared to the men in suits in Canberra.
Not to take over the union if he resigned, which he did.
Now, when you do a deal with the government, you'd expect them to honour it.
Did you make a deal with John Setka?
Obviously not.
Tradies today attacking the PM, refusing to back down as they demanded the union be returned.
What did Hitler do? He legislated away unions. Who did Hitler work for? Not for the working man, I can assure you of that. As I love the Hitler lovers, I ask them, any chance you could tell me all those, sworn enemy of the Nazis, the German National Socialists, how many Jewish bankers died in the camps again? There would be zero. Oh, you don't like it. Who was Hitler's handler? Goering, right in with the European elites. Oh yeah, the Hofjuden. Yeah. So how many Jewish bankers died in the camps again? I can never get the number.
To the workers.
It's all bullshit, and they are ripping apart our union. Our union will never go.
Start saying all wars are bankers' wars, you'll get somewhere. Start identifying with the average Australian, because the average working class Australian is seeing a bunch of big, loud men with beards and black T-shirts and tattoos and going, they look a little frightening. Is anyone telling the fucking CFMEU that? Maybe they might want to take up some advertising and marketing tips, and I'm here to help. Fucking hell.
It will never go.
Eventually accidents happen. The union's the only one that protects us.
So is this the end of the CFMEU, or just the beginning of the fight?
Yeah, that'll change things. Send some links around. Sell some coffee mugs and T-shirts.
Incredible vision. Richard Foley is a member of the CFMEU and took part in the rally in Canberra today. Richard, you drove all the way from Wagga to Canberra. Why were you so passionate about being there?
Well, this is a very, very serious assault.
Richard's tats are hidden, and as you can see, his beard is trimmed. He's much more palatable.
On not only the rights of union members, but also Australian people. We're talking about a complete breach of the separation of powers in this country. And with no police investigation, no formal judicial oversight, we've got people being removed from positions and jobs and being accused of criminality with no evidence.
You got to understand. This is incredible. Oh, there's corruption and crime. They use bad words. He threatened me. The friggin' corporates have been paying off the unions forever. They're paying off politicians. They're always paying someone off. For God's sake, you want to talk about US politics, for crying out loud? Nepotism and oligarchy? They just legislated away a union movement. You blows my mind. Oh, we have to because they're engaged in criminal activity. Oh, great. Where are the indictments? Department of Public Prosecutions? You got to understand, this is bad. And it's being gaslit. It's being reported, but it's sort of like, yeah. Something's up, ladies and gentlemen. You got a bearded men with testosterone. Bad.
Do you deny that there's violence, standover tactics, links to organised crime within the CFMEU?
Look, I've never seen it in my days. I've been a member of the union since 1993, and I saw men have fist fights over the years on building sites, as you do. The building industry is a rough and tumble industry. Half the union, they all look like bikers, all got beards and tats. I mean, the reality is, this is a beater. Nobody's presented any facts other than some hearsay.
So what do you make of the court case, for example, in 2022 in New South Wales, where a New South Wales judge concluded that there had been $30,000 in bribes paid to the CFMEU in Sydney, and that this...
$30,000 in bribes, ladies and gentlemen. Quick, the smelling salts. 30,000 in bribes? What about the tens of millions of dollars bribing government, state officials by the corporate sector? banking and financial sector, the massive drug money laundering rings into the biggest banks in the world and Wall Street in this. Who do you think launders the bikies' fucking money? Fucking accountants and banking staff at the large fucking banks. But those little fags won't be out there on the streets when they try to lock things down. This is just the beginning. Just the beginning.
Compromise the integrity of the union and also had the potential to distort the construction market.
Well, that's a judicial finding, and I'm glad he's found it. That's a finding, but there's over 100,000 members of this union. I mean, you're talking about smearing an entire group of people who've done nothing wrong. You're talking about removing 270 democratically elected officials appointed by democracy and removing them on hearsay. And if there's been a finding, as you say, well, I'd assume that the courts did their job.
But I suppose it's about the preponderance of it, right? It's about the idea that this is a pattern of behaviour, and that's what the
preponderance. It's not about fucking preponderance. You're alleging criminal activity as the reason to legislate away an incorporated organisation who you don't like. Indictments, evidence, trials, jail. It's very simple. That is literally the mechanism which separates us from banana republics. And I'm going to include this stuff in my fucking UN. I am doing my refugee claim. Don't worry, it will happen, not overnight. I'm going to include it because I want to sit all that. I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm starting again, and once I do, I want to alleviate the Mexican people from their charges of a massively corrupt country and say, your corruption's in full view. Let me tell you about corruption in these modern fucking first world countries.
Journalism is reporting. That's what the various stories that some are captured on camera, some are not, in combination with things like that judicial finding, it's putting together a picture. It's not, the idea isn't necessarily to declare war on the union per se.
You just declared fucking war, for God's sake.
Or to say that people in construction shouldn't have union representation. Indeed, I think most people would agree they absolutely should. But rather to make sure that it's a union that's freed of that corruption so the representation can work appropriately.
Free the corruption? Fine. This is the point. This is what blew my mind, which I was telling me over the phone. I was going, what? What? If it's corrupt, indict, investigate, indict, trial. Done. Criminal charges. Where are they? I'll tell you why they won't. Because coppers are involved, politicians are involved, banking and financial sector are involved. They can't bring any fucking charges because all their fucking dirt will come out. All of it. There is no difference between the CFMEU and Hezbollah or Hamas. You know why? It's the same mechanism of control. It's the same thing. They want to destroy anything they don't control. Right now, you're seeing the destruction of Hezbollah and Hamas. Why? They were created by the same system. Now they think, oh, well, we're finished with you now. Now let's get rid of you. And they're doing the same with the union movement because they can't get the union movement under control. That's why. So now it's time to destroy them. You're no longer useful. It's like the brown shirts with Hitler. All right? The brown shirts, they were independent-minded. They weren't going along with, because it was top-down. Hitler was a top-down operation paid for by fucking bankers, for crying out loud, as if he just rose to power like a fucking hot air balloon, flying around in a fucker triplane. I tell you fucking what, if I wrote my book and got it out there called, these things are handled quietly, Mein Kampf maybe, and suddenly I'm flying around in a fucking personal 767 jet, I'd say we'd have all worked out that Brendon was getting backed by serious money, as was Adolf Hitler. It's the same fucking mechanism. Create the Workers' Party. And then, of course, you control it from the top with handlers like Hermann Göring, who was deep in with European royalty, for fuck's sake. Now we see the destruction of all the groups they've organised and tried to control and controlled in times present and past. Let me tell you, if you're anti-union, and I understand why, fucking corruption. There's corruption everywhere. Why don't be anti-corporate? This is the approved whipping boy now. All wars are bankers' wars. The fucking CFMEU didn't invade Iraq and kill 1 million fucking people. They're not slaughtering Palestinians right now. That's a corporatized internationalist banking cartel in suits who have destroyed whole economies and whole peoples. In 2008 in America, they built up to the biggest scam in fucking history and ripped off $5 trillion from the American taxpayer. And not one of those effers went to jail. Not fucking one. But you better get your blood up. All those unions have got tattoos. they've got beers. Well, they use foul language. Well, we certainly hope that corruption will be. I mean, geez, this is the perfect whipping boy distraction I've ever seen.
That seems a legitimate concern for government, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
It's a legitimate concern in general for human beings, but the reality is you need due process. Where is the rule of law or any judicial process or any police investigation in relation to this latest raft of stuff? There is none.
There's no doubt that the union has...
And that's the simple answer. You can't make heavy allegations of standover and violent criminal thuggery and then say, well, we're legislating it away. Wait a minute, where's the criminal investigation? This is bad. This sets dangerous precedents. And if they see the Australian public just walk away and go, oh, well, that's good. They look like nasty men with beards and, you know, they've got tattoos and they wear black T-shirts. If that happens and they go, oh, the data analytics look good. We just legislated away an organised movement filled with passionate grassroots people. Not a problem. Let's do it to the next one. And they're going to keep going and going and going. No due process, no criminal allegations, no evidence, no fucking nothing. This is how it begins. And the fact they've done this so brazenly at this time, too many Palestinian flags, too close to their pandemic 2.0, too much militancy, too many data analytics coming out going, oh, we better start locking things down in the DARPA, Strategic Hamlet System, Urban Pacification Program.
It's done amazing things for working men and women in this country. But you know the saying about absolute power corrupts and power corrupting absolutely. Do you accept that your union is intimidating?
What black shirts?
I think
they're talking about absolute power and terms like this. Now, that's not the union movement, ladies and gentlemen. That's giant transnational corporations and the banking and financial sector. How we're all walking around in Australia right now. The housing crisis is so bad. Remember, there's only the population of Mexico City in Australia, an island continent the size of fucking the United States, 25 million people. They imported 800,000 immigrants over 3 years. And nobody in our multi-trillion-dollar government said, gee, let's import 800,000 people, you know, demographics, stimulate the economy, make sure we can break it up and keep everyone fighting. And then we won't give them any housing, build new housing, cheap housing, affordable housing. We'll open no further urban development centres and we'll create the biggest housing crisis in our history. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Now, why do you think they're fucking doing that? This is the program of stressing out entire populations to get ready for the UBI Smart City program. Be a good boy. The real smart socialist people, the kind people without tattoos in their Armani fucking suits will come in with the solution. We've got rid of those bearded men. Very frightening. Whether it's Hezbollah or the CFMEU, it's the same mechanism of control. You take grassroots movement. When you come up 200 years ago with the Industrial Revolution, when they were using 12-year-old children with their arms lopped off in loom factories in London, or wharves that were poisoning people with asbestos. It was the union movement that stopped these things. All right, they have demonized, they have infiltrated, they have corrupted these movements. So the average person goes, oh, that might help me. That might be a solid organizing principle around which to gather. Oh no, it's full of bearded, angry men with tattoos. Too frightening for me. And that's the game. That's the fucking game. They want to destroy any concept of ordinary people getting together. Any concept of getting together. Get them out marching with worthless, pointless slogans. People are going to get serious. And if you're going to march and have slogans, have the right ones. All wars, bankers, fucking wars.
Some people would consider, like today, you're looking at a bunch of what some people might consider loud mouths and bogans walking down the street in high vis, looking at me, you know. I just think we're very...
And I'm sure amongst that crowd was very articulate family people with kids, I guarantee. But do you think the media is going to show you that aspect of the march? Of course not.
Prominent. We stand up for our rights and we stand up for the rights of others.
Do you think there are any people in the construction industry...
You fly too many Palestinian flags, Richard.
...governance within the CFMEU itself?
I think there probably are. But yet again, as I said, if there are those concerns, well, let's air them. Let's have proper discourse. Let's have due process.
No, don't do that.
Well, I know officials. I have a good friend who's an official of mine, and that never steered a foot wrong and lost his job, and for no wrong whatsoever. So I think that if there's any governance issues, it's the current one we're under.
Richard, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Good on you, Richard. Now imagine that testosterone focused. Imagine that testosterone and that anger and that fearlessness channeled into the right places. Oh my God, it'll put the fear of fucking God into the bastards. Think about it. They're going to tear everything away, and we keep the focus off what we need to talk about. Bankers, transnational corporations. They don't pay any fucking tax. They mock us. They laugh at us. They got their billionaire class scum at the top there. When are they going to fucking jail? They're drug money launderers. They're financial fucking manipulators. When do they go to jail? You want to talk about absolute power corrupting absolutely? There's the whipping boy for you. God help Australia. Let's read what I wrote down here. Oh, by the way, many of the CFMEU have my UN document, by the way. Oh, they flew. Ladies and gentlemen, there might be a crime against humanity. The CFMEU flew a Palestinian flag. You can't see it very clearly. Apparently, the Zionists who hired the helicopter couldn't get in close enough to get an iconic picture, because they don't want an iconic picture of the Palestinian flag flying over that site. Again, maybe if the CFMEU took up the cause of drag queens and LBGTQ, URS, TUVWXYZ, maybe then they would be keeping their jobs. New Zion, Australia. I used to know a lot of people in the Jewish community. Trust me, Western Australia and Australia. Forget Patagonia. Elite alleged Jews out of Israel flock to Australia. Are you confused why that might be? It's beautiful. Have you ever been to Sydney and travelled around Sydney Harbour on a ferry for like $5? Go and have a look. You've clearly never been to Sydney and taken a ferry ride around the harbour. CFMEU fly the wrong flags. I made an internet post way back in 2005 of what Australia could expect in the coming years, and it seems to have pointed in the right direction. This was 2005 on good old Henry Macau's Club Conspiracy. The New World Order had its big fat eyes glued firmly on Oz, sitting innocently, surfing and tanning itself for so long the average Australian is about to feel the rod of his and hers true master. Oz has been earmarked as playground and last resort bunker for the New World Order hierarchy and loyal lackeys. The combination of low population, unlimited resources, that includes water, massive underground tables in Australia, geological positioning right under Asia, stable Western democracy and sunny shores have at last been our undoing. I personally believe that crocodile hunter idiot also must share in some of the blame. That's right, he's an idiot, and let's not speak of him again. Yeah, no one in Australia liked him. They thought he was an embarrassing fool, but then Americans loved him, so Australians, with the cultural cringe, decided they liked him too. Here is a quick rundown of what is coming and may already be here. High-level nuclear waste dump. What did we expect? All this stable geology, nobody about, stable government, and a population too busy surfing to notice. Of course, that's not entirely true. They tried a little while ago and lost, but they'll be back. That's the point of the New World Order. They run the planet. They'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, there was the road to nowhere in the northwest. I heard about it in the late 1990s by someone who lived up there. And they said there's a 4-lane bituminized highway going into the middle of the desert. It's for a nuclear waste dump. And I said, what? A nuclear waste dump? That'd be all over the news. All the greenies and sad, pathetic, rich commies kids will be down there protesting. And so, being the political little beast that I was, I started ringing the main roads department and various government institutions and say, hey, there's a thing called the road to nowhere, a 4-lane bituminized highway going out into the middle of the desert to a nuclear waste dump. No, don't be silly. Never heard of it. Doesn't exist. 4 years later, what's on the news? The road to nowhere. Locals show the new nuclear waste dump. We've all forgotten about it, but let's rest assured, they didn't build that highway and dig those holes for nothing. I'm just giving you an example. Satellite launch facilities on top, secret weapons training testing. Again, view the above aforementioned, plus the Yanks think we're just like them, which we are, just with warmer weather and better beer. We can also shoot straighter, but that's another story. Besides, with the Australians' well-known she'll be right attitude, no one will complain about all that depleted uranium wafting about, especially with no one around. Gigantic Army, Air Force and naval bases. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all happening. You read it here first, 2005. And that's what you get for sitting below Asia. We also sit beneath what Thomas Barnett, that's Dr. Thomas Barnett, calls The Gap, aka pain in the ass fundamentalist Muslims, aka believers in God who refuse to knuckle under the New World Order rule. Tsunamis were Act 1, more to come. Already underway are 2 bases with a total of 30,000 Marines, which will include air bases for their F-18s. I've heard secret little bases for their B-2 bomber, maybe on the go as well. These will be based in northwest of WA and the Northern Territory. Most of these resources will be moved from South Korea. Don't worry about that peninsula. Kim Jong-2 has been told they're just going to nuke him. He'll stay in his box. Besides, when Osama is finally admitted dead, Kim will be needed as the new and improved Goldstein, and indeed he is. Of course, there will be the same small problems. Hanging shit on the Poms is passé. People from such a cold land are to be pitied, not stirred up. Yank bashing is in, and some great dust-ups are to be expected with such a huge influx of drunken loudmouth Yanks who are yet to realise that drunken loudmouth Australians always win in hand-to-hand combat. The big one, bunkers for World War III. With a low population, stupendous resources of everything, cheap housing, forget that, that's gone. Fantastic lifestyle, that's out the door and well away from everyone, that's still here. The one cursed convict island is having the last laugh. From convict island to elite hangout in just 200 short years, with a great influx of the well-to-do from Europe and the US as things go to shit around 2012 and local economies will boom. Apart from the obvious booms in goods and services, there will also be plenty of work for house cleaners, waiters, child sex rings, drug dealers, security guards, and male prostitutes. The Sydney Mardi Gras will be bigger than ever, and the Mossad will be cleaning up on the ecstasy trade. There you go, fellow Oz dwellers. Life in the short term is going to be actually very good. That is only if you don't mind losing your soul whilst counting your money. The only good thing is there's still time to secure some cheap land and build your own bunker. If you're as cynical as me, that is. Of course, some call me a realist. That was 2005. And look at fatty old me. Those were the days. These are workers' hands. Ladies and gents, the CFMEU, just the beginning in this phase of the operation. It is chilling. They are up to something more than what you might think is obvious. More than what the fact that suddenly, oh my God, the CFMEU is corrupt. There may be bikie and drug dealing, infiltration. Oh, what? Only for the last 30 fucking years? The fact they've moved so quickly in such a dramatic way, and the way it's just being so casually discussed, like, oh, yeah, but Richard, maybe it's good. There's been very bad. They took 30,000. They paid $30,000 in bribes. They took 30 grand in bribes. Oh my God, 30,000. That's what you got. That's what you got. Not billions, not hundreds of millions. Drug money laundering and payoffs and mass murder and wars for bank. Oh, no. I mean, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with that, ladies and gentlemen. Get in there, try some fasting, give your stomach and intestines, your gut brain a chance to recover, and it will feed you with beautiful, warm, glowing energy. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing now with the union movement, I hope somehow, and I definitely want to help because there's a powerful political tool. It's a weapon. Don't disband it. Don't break it up. Take control of it. Imagine if you get everyone together and say, shut your mouths, which I had to learn. You've got that beautiful testosterone, alpha male anger. Beautiful. Let's dress up in some, I don't know, multicolored, rainbow-colored T-shirts. Let's hide the tattoos. Let's get articulate, trim the beards, and enter into the public discourse as somewhere where ordinary Australians are happy to support. The average Australian sees that, where the media takes, 100,000, 30,000 people marching and show a bunch of black-clad, tattooed-up people screaming. That's quite deliberate, obviously. You don't see the families walking along. You're not seeing honest contractors and doing their work and so on. Believe me, the intent is not to remove corruption. The intent is to remove an impediment to the coming shutting down and turning Australia into a Singapore, an oligarchical run, totally shut down, rule-based, don't fart without permission, and you will have your UN smart city. You will have your universal basic income. And the first place, one of the first places in the modern world it will go is Australia. 25 million fools sipping Corona beers with lime on the beach, dreaming away their lives. They'll accept it and they'll suck it up. But will they? Only if men with a lot of testosterone allow this to happen. You got to get people on board. You got to get the coppers on board. You got to get the military on board. You've got to get that male-dominated population with firearms on your side. They want to divide. They want to cause fights. They want to cause division. They want to cause polarizing imagery of angry-looking men with tattoos, and they just love it. So every time you go out on march, get yourself some nice coloured, rainbow-coloured flags and some rainbow-coloured things. And whatever you do, don't fly the Palestinian flag, which is, to be honest, the greatest crime of the CFMEU, according to some in the know. See you later for another Mad Monk.
F. Scott Fitzgerald, quote, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. One should, for example, be able to see that things are hopeless and yet be determined to make them otherwise. This philosophy fitted on to my early adult life when I saw the improbable, the implausible, often the impossible, come true."
What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American because that's what it's all about, and it's the only thing that it's all about, nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom.